Green Lantern is the Bolliger Mabillard stand-up coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. Stand-up coasters were a fad in the 1980s and 1990s, and Green Lantern was among the biggest and baddest. This was a record-breaking coaster when it first opened, and it still packs a mighty punch today. Some may find this coaster a bit too uncomfortable, but I like its power, and I'll explain why in this review. Kentucky Kingdom was among the fastest growing amusement parks in the United States in the 1990s. This was best exemplified by Chang. This B&M stand-up coaster opened in 1997 as the world's tallest, fastest, and longest coaster of its kind, stealing all these records from Cedar Point's Mantis. This splashy addition is one of the main reasons that Premier Parks acquired Kentucky Kingdom in late 1997. Shortly thereafter, Premier Parks acquired Six Flags, leading to many of their properties being rebranded as Six Flags Parks, including Kentucky Kingdom. In 2007, the park had a major accident on their Superman Tower of Power drop tower. This was a major blow to the park's reputation. Meanwhile, Six Flags was on the verge of bankruptcy. In late 2009, Six Flags decided to remove Chang in favor of a water park addition. But that water park addition never came. Worse, Six Flags decided to close Kentucky Kingdom in early 2010. Fortunately, that story has a happy ending. Long story short, Ed Hart saved the park and now operates today as a Hirsch End property. And interestingly, there's a gift shop in the park that still sells Chang t-shirts. So what happened to Chang? The coaster was originally shipped to Six Flags Great America in Illinois. This was an odd decision at the time, because the park already had a stand-up coaster in Iron Wolf. While Iron Wolf was ultimately removed after the 2011 season, Chang was not assembled here. In July 2010, Six Flags Great Adventure announced they would remove their Arrow Mega Looper and Great American Scream Machine. This would be in favor of a new attraction. At the time, Six Flags did not say what the new ride would be, but fans speculated it could be Chang. This was confirmed to be true at the Jackson Township Zoning Board meeting, as the new attraction had an identical layout to Chang. The ride would open in 2011 as Green Lantern, to coincide with the film of the same name starring Ryan Reynolds. While that film would be panned by critics and even the film's leading actor, the coaster opened to a fairly positive reception. It certainly looks the part. Green Lantern is placed at the edge of the parking lot, so it's one of the first rides you see as you pull in, and it looks mighty imposing with its towering lift hill and colossal inversions. Chang had a yellow paint scheme at its old home, but it was fittingly painted green to tie in with the hero, but the loop was interestingly kept yellow. This was done for thematic purposes. The villain in the Green Lantern film was Parallax, who is the living embodiment of fear. His powers are represented by a yellow glow, so the park kept the part of the ride that most people considered the scariest yellow, and the train passes through a cutout of Parallax before navigating the element. That's the only theming you really see on ride, but there's a few other thematic touches around the attraction. The ride is a great entry sign. You have a giant glowing Green Lantern in the plaza. Then you have a big cutout of Green Lantern projecting coaster track from his ring. The queue not only passes underneath several ride elements, but it also passes a few jets because the area is lightly themed to a Ferris aircraft base. Then there are also some signs discussing Green Lantern's powers and abilities. At least there's some stuff to look at because this ride tends to have one of the longest waits at Great Adventure. It regularly exceeds 2 hours during Fright Fest. At other points in the year, you can expect to wait 45 minutes for this ride midday. Two of my easiest ways to ride this with no wait can no longer be used. First, this ride used to be open for holiday in the park. Green Lantern was almost always a walk-on for this winter event, but the ride was removed from the attraction list in 2022. Second, this ride used to have a single rider line towards the end of the queue, but this staircase has since been blocked by a trash can in recent years. There are still two other ways to avoid a long wait at this coaster though. One, you can use the paid Flash Pass Skip the Line system. This brings you directly to the staircase into the station. 2. You can head here at the very start or end of the day. Line should be quite minimal then. Green Lantern has good capacity on paper. The ride routinely runs both its trains. Each train holds a max of 28 riders, as each train has 7 rows of 4. The issue is that B&M stand-up coasters are difficult to load. To board, riders straddle a bike seat and pull down an over-the-shoulder harness. Because the restraints start in the highest position, most guests will need to hop into their seat. You then need to press downwards to adjust your seat height. Before you leave the station, the heights lock into place. This feature is what slows down the dispatches. Employees need to verify the seats are not too high or too low for each guest. If someone set their seat improperly, the employees will need to unlock that row. You want to ride this coaster standing up, not sitting on the bike seat. You want your legs straight during the ride. I recommend having a slight bend in your knees until the seats lock, then stand straight up. This will have 2 advantages. 1. The bike seat will be positioned lower, meaning there's more of a gap between your crotch and the seat. This makes it less likely your groin is pinched or squished. 2. Your head will be positioned higher relative to the restraint. Ideally, you want your ears above the restraint to mitigate the chances of headbanging. To do this, you want the top of the restraint jammed into your shoulders. There will be a lot of pressure there, and I know that's a deal breaker for some, but it stabilizes your body and eliminates headbanging, which I find more uncomfortable. I think the main reason people dislike Green Lantern is because they don't have the seat in a comfortable position. I used to hate this ride as well. It was a nut crusher and a headbanger on my first ride, not a good combo. But now that I know how to ride it, I do enjoy it. There is one more potential source of pain that you'll have to endure no matter what. That is the crushing positive G-forces. On sit-down coasters, those are comfortably translated to your butt. On stand-up coasters, the positives are directed towards your legs and feet. At many points, it feels like the coaster is trying to push you into the floor. It can make your legs feel heavy. I like the display of power and can tolerate it in short bursts, but I know it's too much for some under any circumstances. In terms of seat selection, I have a slight preference for the front row for the rush of wind and unobstructed view, but I don't think the forces vary too much across the train. Once dispatched, you immediately climb the 154-foot or 47-meter tall lift hill. On the way up, you get a bird's eye view of the parking lot. You'll also hear Green Lantern's famous oath being recited from speakers alongside you. Once at the top, you have a small dip and a 180-degree turn left. This gives you some momentum into the main drop. That plunge is a 144-foot or 44-meter tall drop. It is a rare straight drop for the genre. It's too shallow to offer airtime though. It builds up plenty of speed though, and you have that fun visual careening through that parallax cutout at the bottom. It is a nice near miss. You then have a gigantic 122-foot or 37-meter tall vertical loop. Despite its size, it holds decent force throughout. Then the resultant valley exerts strong positive Gs, and this will be a recurring theme all throughout the ride. You then have a large dive loop. You get some weightlessness at the top. Then you flip 180 degrees and are pulled downwards. Again, the valley hits you with high positive Gs. Next comes a large turnaround above the station. This element is a dud. The valleys around it have nice Gs, but the element itself offers no notable forces. It very much feels like filler. Thankfully, it is followed by the ride's best element, the inclined loop. This is an intense maneuver. You get extremely strong and sustain positive Gs throughout it. Your legs will feel like jelly by the end of it. It feels like your legs will explode. Compare that to the other elements that let up on the Gs as you navigate the inversion. This one's the exception. Next is a high-speed S-hill. It offers some weak float or airtime, which is a pretty rare sensation on a stand-up coaster. Then, without any hesitation, you return to the high positive Gs as you twist upwards into the mid-course brake run. That brake run does not slow the train down one bit, so the resultant drop which is a straight 5-story plunge, has some weak airtime in the back row. Next comes a corkscrew. It's not as snappy as an old invert, but it has some more oomph than a corkscrew in a floorless coaster. It is fairly whippy as you're rotated sideways. The train then twists upwards, piercing through the dive loop. You then have a twisting drop downwards. At the end of this element, you get some heavy positive Gs. Then comes a corkscrew above the queue line. It's as whippy as the first one, and the following valley offers another dose of positive Gs. You then have this long L-turn right. The end of this element offers some mild Gs, the last spurt of positives on the ride. You then twist left into the final brake run. You then return to the station, ending the 4,155 foot or 1,266 meter long coaster. In terms of pacing, this ride is pretty action-packed start to finish. The inversions are great. They deliver in the force department, as do the surrounding valleys. The only chance is to catch your breath are the big turnaround, the mid-course brake run, and the very last turn. That is it. In terms of smoothness, this ride tracks quite well. However, the directional changes can move your body sideways a bit, and if your restraint is too high, it is quite easy to hit your head at these points. This is because the harness gets really close to your ears, much more so than other types of B&M loopers, so it's imperative to follow my technique to have the most comfortable ride experience. You do not want to get headbanging on this ride. So, what would I rate Green Lantern? I would give this coaster a 7 out of 10. This is a big, forceful coaster. The inversions and valleys offer strong positive Gs. While I usually like the sensation, it can take a toll at points in your legs and feet. While this coaster is fun, it's not one that I find re-rideable for that reason. Just make sure to use my riding technique to avoid potential crotch and head pain. I know some other stand-up coasters have been converted to sit-down coasters, including Firebird at Six Flags America in the same chain, but I don't foresee the same thing happening to Green Lantern. Great Adventure already has a floorless coaster Medusa, so they do not need another sit-down looping coaster. Meanwhile, Green Lantern slots in nicely to Great Adventure's ride lineup as is, and it's currently the only stand-up coaster in the Northeast. But how does it stack up to the other stand-up coasters out there? Of the traditional ones, I do prefer Riddler's Revenge. This is the stand-up coaster built a year later at Six Flags Magic Mountain that took all this coaster's records, and it's an even more intense experience. But there is not another traditional stand-up coaster I would take over Green Lantern. This ride beats most other stand-up coasters in the force and length department easily. So those are my thoughts on Green Lantern at Six Flags Great Adventure. What are your thoughts about this coaster? Do you like it? Or do you find it too uncomfortable? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there will be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.